All right, this is a tutorial for student workers to set up Cura. If this is your first time downloading it, you should have already installed it on your computer. If you haven't already done so, pause the video and go to Cura's website by just doing a quick Google search and downloading the respective installer for your operating system. And when you open it up, you should see something like this. It might prompt you automatically to load or add a new printer, which you should at least be adding the 2+. But I'm gonna go through the steps on how to do that manually if it hasn't already prompted you to do so. So we'll be adding two different printers, which is the Ultimaker 2+ and the Ultimaker 3. We have two 2+s in the lab and then one Ultimaker 3. So the first thing we want to do is go up to the menu bar up here at the top of the screen. You want to go down to Preferences, and then we're going to go over to Printers. So in Printers, I already have some machines set up here. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and remove this 2+, because we're going to add one right now. So you want to go to Add, then Add a non-networked printer, then go down to Ultimaker 2+, press Add, and as you can see here, I already had one. And this is the number 2 is the one I just added. You won't need to adjust machine settings at all. Everything should be correct. And then you're going to want to do the same thing for the Ultimaker 3. So we're going to go down to Ultimaker 3, press Add, and there you go. So that's pretty much it for adding printers. Very easy, I know. And now we want to update our material pricing. So we're going to go down to Materials, we're going to go to Generic PLA, which is what we'll use for all the prints in the lab for the most part. And we want to, you can set the color if you want, but we want to change filament cost, and you're going to change that to $25, and then the filament weight is 1,000 grams. And that should come out to 0.2 cents per meter. If you don't get that number, reach out to me and we'll do some troubleshooting, but that's the kind of the cost we're looking for right here. Now what we need to do is add a printing profile for both our Ultimaker 3s and our Ultimaker 2+s. So I want to make sure I have the Ultimaker 2+ already selected. So if I have my Ultimaker 2+ selected, I want to make sure. Oh, interesting. Why is it only showing my Ultimaker 3? It's probably because we have it selected up here as the active printer. Okay, so you want to activate material profiles. Okay. So now that we want to, import a printing profile for each of our different types of machines, and there's many ways to 3D print one object, but I've created a sort of default profile that we will use for all student prints, and then if any changes that need to be made will be based off of this profile. So Ultimaker provides 3 default profiles already, and the one that we have is similar to that, but just go ahead and use the one that I've given y'all. So you can download these on the Google Drive, and I'll send you links to download them, or at least point you in the direction of where to download them. And then to import them, it's pretty simple. We go down to Profiles here, we go to Import, and then you navigate to your profile, you select it, and then you open it, and then it should show up in your drop-down in your custom profiles here. And I'll show you where to find that inside Cura's main interface up here. So now that we have our profiles imported, and you should do the same thing for the Ultimaker 3. So for instance, if we were going to do that, we have to activate the printer first, meaning we have to activate, we have to essentially select which printer is currently active. So right now my Ultimaker 2 Plus number 2 is active. I'm going to go to Ultimaker 3 and press activate, and that will bring up all the profiles specific to that machine. Since the machines themselves are different, they need different printing profiles. So I have a custom profile, student prints UM3 here. And when you go and look at the Cura profiles that I've provided, there's an Ultimaker 3 and Ultimaker 2 Plus. Make sure you're selecting the Ultimaker 3. So there's my Ultimaker 3 student prints. And once we have that, we can close it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the interface here for a second. We have your file open, so you can go through here to open a STL file. We have our printer presets. So here's the 2 that I just imported. You should only have 2, so Ultimaker 2 Plus and Ultimaker 3 is what you should see on your screen. I'm going to navigate to the Ultimaker 2 Plus. The second little area here is the material that you'll be using for your printer. The Ultimaker 2 Pluses only have 1 nozzle, where the Ultimaker 3s have 2 nozzles, so you'll see 2 options. For the most part, you should have generic PLA set for both of them. For the Ultimaker 3, we'll only be using the first nozzle, so no matter what, there will be things that you need to double check for the Ultimaker 3, but I will make a specific video for that in regards to setting up the Ultimaker 3. This is just kind of an overview. I'm going to go back to Ultimaker 2 Plus. The third little option box here is where you'd select your printing profile. So, and this is where you can find your custom profile. So we have our default ones, and then the custom one will be at the bottom under custom profiles. In here you can set all sorts of things like layer height, wall thickness, bottom and top thickness, infill density, all of that. I might make a more in-depth video about this. You can go ahead and look through this if you really wanted to, but I'm not going to talk too heavily about it right now. Up at the top here you have your prepare, preview, and monitor modes. Prepare and preview is kind of what you'll be using most of the time. Prepare is built for just kind of setting up your print or your printer, getting something loaded onto the build plate, maybe resizing your object. So if you ever need to resize your object in Cura, I don't recommend it, but if you have to, you need to select your object, and then over here on the left side you'll have different options. So this is your move, your translate, your rotate, mirror, some other modes. You will mainly be using these first 3, specifically rotate, because oftentimes things get imported into your file or into your work area. So this checkered grid area is your machine build area. Anything that's in gray is kind of like an unprintable area. This darker gray area shows the build volume, if you will. So it's essentially just a bounding box for all of your 3D files. The gray zones on the edge here are essentially the no-go zones for the printer. So if we were to move this over here ever so slightly, you can see that the model itself is now checkered, or striped, I guess. That means that it's not printable. So or it's outside of the printable zone, essentially, this outside the work area. So if you ever see that, just kind of try and scoot your object back into the work zone, and then it should change to the color of the material that you've selected. So we have yellow for generic PLA here. Yours could be pink if you wanted to, whatever stands out the most. And as far as getting to preview, you can go ahead and navigate to preview if you wanted to. Preview essentially is going to show you a mock-up of your line work. So if we're in prepare and we want to get to preview, we need to slice our file. So I'm going to go ahead and press slice. Slicing is a term used for preparing your file for 3D printing. It essentially takes your 3D file and breaks it down into code for the machine to be able to read. It literally creates layers for, or translates your file, your 3D form, into multiple layers to create that form. And each layer has lines on it to create the density of the print. So that's a very quick and dirty explanation of 3D printing. So once you press slice at the bottom in your right hand corner here, you have a print estimate time, material used, and the length of the material, and then price. So in the lab we have a flat rate price of $5. So no matter how cheap the print is, you can only go as low as $5. Anything over that, you can just use the price that's given here. If you want to preview your line work, you can go to preview, and in preview you can visualize the layers. For instance, this test print only has one layer, so we can't navigate past one. This slider down here shows the toolpath per layer. So in that light green is our brim, which is something that helps the print adhere to the build plate and also primes the nozzle. And then in yellow is our actual model that we've created and we want to print. Over to the left here is your object list. So every 3D file that you import into the scene will get listed here, and you can also use that to kind of navigate between all your prints. So naming is really important if you have a lot of different parts. So if you're looking for a very specific part in all of in all the things that you're trying to print in this specific print file, you can just go to it, click on it, do whatever you need to, and then move on. Once your file is ready to print after it's been sliced and you've looked at the preview and you say, this looks good to me, you can save it to the disk down here. So it will also give you an option if you plug in a flash drive or an SD card to save directly to your removable drive, which is a nice feature, and then you can go directly and eject from this menu, and it'll pop up right here. I'll go over this in a printing a test file video, so that's pretty much it. As far as this last button here, monitor mode. Monitor mode is for when you connect the printer directly to your computer, but we really don't do that in here, so you don't really need to know it. I think that's it for the overview of Cura. It's a pretty simple program, but it's very powerful.